what is it that gives us the regret? What is it that internally makes us feel bad or wrong about doing some of the things that we do?
Something has to either stop you or slow you down tremendously to get you to think. So you're out there smashing everything with a skirt, and then you get that report from your doctor, hey, you got this incurable disease.
Right. Welcome back to the Get Busy Podcast with your boy
B. Jones. And that right there is
Izzy Assad. And we in this thing. It's a good day.
It's a great day, man. How you feeling today?
Man, look, it's man, we got a tropical storm heading our way. Man, but it's man, I've never felt better, to be honest with you. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah?
mean? Yeah, man. It's a lot of things going in the right direction. You know what I'm saying?
You waiting for that cool breeze to come
Man, I tell you what.
from those devastating hurricanes. It's going to take out some people's houses, but, you know, we're far enough inland. We just feel that nice breeze. It's like, oh, this is a nice fall day.
No, but you know, it prayers up for all the people that's dealing with like devastation.
Yeah,
You
no
know what I'm
doubt.
saying? Like,
Yeah.
I'm always sitting here joking about it, but no, yeah, man, just a lot going on. You know, the boys are starting to get more acclimated at the crib.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's real cool. The business is still doing things, taking different steps to that. So loving it. Man, yeah, just glad about what's going on. So
That's good.
yeah, man.
I hung some new lights. So I finally got my lights came in today. I got them both hung on my very tall ceilings, and I'm getting over my fear of heights.
Yo,
Minute
look
by
amazing.
minute.
They literally look amazing, bro. Like
Thank you, man.
it's not even something that I would have ever thought about. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like you're giving me ideas. Like, man, I got to step my interior design game up. Who knew I was going to be saying that one of these days? That's
I know,
dope.
right? That is some grown man talk right there.
Hey, well, it's official though.
Yeah.
Hey, so it's a lot going on. You know, we kind of, you know, just an impromptu, you know, get into it today. You know, a couple of topics, but the main focus is regret, huh?
Let's talk about regrets.
Man, so in the theme of regrets, man, there's so much.
You see me staring off into space right now? That's the regret look. Like,
Hey, it can come from so many angles. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, man, where do you want to pick from? You know? So I guess, man, just to be very honest and just transparent, you know, we were talking about the Diddy thing. Everybody seems to be talking about that right now. You know, it's very, you know, now. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't done a whole lot of research on the topic, but I got the general, you know, gist and scope of what it is that's been going on. Kind of crazy.
Yeah, man. Diddy was living his best life, and that life caught up to him.
Yeah, man. You know, for decades. And it's very similar to the Epstein situation, you know, and what it boils down to is that, like, and I wonder how these people feel, like, if you could genuinely interview them, you know what I mean, and get them to be authentic and real about it.
Hit him with that, you know, those movies, they inject you with that truth serum.
Yeah. That was, you know, I really wonder, you know, if they look back and say, it was worth it, you know what I mean? Or if they look back and it's like, damn, like I really should have pivoted or done something else.
That'd be a great podcast. Like, if you could just
Really just
hit people with truth serum and like kidnap them and bring them in and just talk to them.
Man, I mean, I'm talking about ratings through the roof. Just
Oh, my
skyrocketing.
goodness.
So it's crazy though, man. You know, Cat Williams said at the beginning of the year in January that 2023 is going to be a whole lot of things 2024 is going to be a whole lot of stuff getting exposed in the industry and everywhere else. And so far, it's been a whole lot of it that's been happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it's very interesting. And I look at this Diddy situation. You know, you look at, man, Puff was, you know, you go back to the 90s, man, that was it. You know what I'm saying? Bad Boy, you know, the music, the making of the band. You know, he had the artists, he had the videos, he had the Sean John, he had the ended up being, you know, Ciroc. He had like every, you know, his hands in every area,
everything
in the industry, man.
Yeah.
And I think about watching music videos. I haven't watched music videos in like 20 years. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I think about how much influence he had at one point. And I think about how much reach he had and almost power. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not even almost. It's like, you know, I used to hear about the Diddy white parties and the this and that. And I had no idea the level of, you know, real, you know, ish that was going on.
Their freakiness, it got real freaky.
Bruh.
Started hearing like stories
over the, you know, like slowly but surely
over the years. And it's like,
I mean?
oh, this stuff is real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where there's smoke, I mean, there's fire. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
a lot of times that's true.
A lot of times, man.
Yeah. You know, I heard there was like a young actor, I can't remember who it was, but he said he was at a, you know, like a Hollywood party and like Denzel was there. And Denzel was kicking some game to him. He was like, hey, listen, man, when it gets to be about this time, that's when you need to go ahead and shake. Go ahead and leave. And, you know, because, well, how your black mamas be like, oh, nothing good happened after
whatever time,
midnight or whatever it is. So, yeah, you know, when you have, I'll talk about myself. So I have desires that are dark. I don't act on them.
Right.
But I think a lot of the reason why I don't act on them because I don't have the access or the ability to to act on the stuff like that are the real dark things is in my heart. So when you do have money and access and like the you know, the two choices are real, you know what I'm saying?
Very real.
Like a very real. And so like, you know, I think the stories I heard about Diddy, like early on, he was like, you know, he was a hard worker, a very talented dude, like directed music videos. You know, he did Southern Playlistic. He directed that video.
Nope, had no idea.
Yeah, he directed that video. He had such a vision. And so like, it's a cool story actually. Like, so Big Boy and Dre, and this is back when New York was running hip hop.
Period. Yeah.
And so like I heard this, I didn't believe it, but like, this was like a verified story. So like Dre, for the video, he wanted to wear like his Timberland hoodie.
Okay.
And like, because New York was running hip hop and that's who you look to. And those were all the talent was. And he wanted to emulate that. Diddy was the one who's from New York was the one that's like, nah, man, you need to wear some Atlanta stuff. And they're like, hey, you should wrap your shirt off on this part. And he kind of helped them like,
wow.
You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
I couldn't believe when I heard that. So he's a very talented, you know, dude, man, and had a lot going for him. But like, again, like with, you know, that notoriety, that access, you can act out on all your desires and you just went all the way in. And then it's like, bro, when you're in sin, like you can't really quench it.
There's no finish line.
There's no finish line. You just got to have more and more. So you start hearing weird stuff. You know what I mean? So use your imagination. But like, yeah, man, like now that he's at the end of his rope, metaphorically, like, you know, he's still fairly young. I think he's maybe, what, 50?
Yeah, probably. Right
around
there,
that time.
like that. Yep.
Late 40s, early 50s. Like, you know what I'm saying? If you were to ask him and he was to answer you honestly, like, dude, was all of that worth it? And I know a lot of that was, like you said, the white parties and shaking hands with presidents and all, you know, whoever, like who's who. Like Diddy was the who's who.
He was.
And he had the who's who around him, had everything he wanted, but it was like, you took it too far. In a lot of these instances, you start hearing about kidnaps and rapes and bribes and, you know what I'm saying? All kind of crazy stuff. And it's like, now that's over, bro. Like, now you got to face the consequences of the choices that you made. Do you feel any regret for it? Or was it worth it?
So I wonder about that. And I honestly, I just wonder. I don't know if he actually, and I can't, obviously nobody's going to know, you know what I mean? But I think, what is it that gives us the regret? What is it that internally makes us feel bad or wrong about doing some of the things that we do? Is it just the getting caught, or is it the realization that it was actually wrong? Because some of this, it's sex trafficking, drug smuggling and drug trafficking, money laundering. I mean, it's like the list is any crime that you could think of for real at a very extraordinary rate was associated with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the most serious and the most despicable of the crimes. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Drugs for what? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right.
you had it all. I don't know. So to answer that question, I think getting caught for most people is what does it. There has to be like a change in your situation. Like something has to either stop you or slow you down tremendously to get you to think. So you out there smashing everything with a skirt, and then you get that report from your doctor. You got this incurable disease.
Right. Right.
That'll stop you. You know what I'm saying? That'll help you. That'll get you to think. You're old now. You were the man back then. And now, you know what I'm saying? You could have had this family or whatever, but you wanted to be a player your whole life. Like some of these, like, NBA, old school NBA players.
Yeah.
And you hear stories and it's like, I can't remember this one guy. They said he like thousands of women, you know what I'm saying? Just
Will
like,
Chamberlain.
I think it was Wilt. It might have been Wilt. A couple of them, a lot of them dudes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You have money, you handsome, tall, you famous. And it's like, you get to that old age and it's just like, them dudes don't really look much happier than like just the average older guy that I see. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that stuff they don't carry with you. You know what I'm saying? Like we're not meant to live in these type of ways.
Yes.
And so when we do it and it doesn't work, then we're kind of stuck like, dang, well, this wasn't satisfying as I thought it would be. You know
There's
what I'm
no
saying?
fulfillment in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So no, I think definitely like a change in your personal situation and slowing you down or stopping you will help you to see and feel regret. And I think a lot of times that's like God's mercy. You know what I'm saying? Like, because for some people, like they gotta like, if they didn't crash and burn, a lot of people like end up turning their lives around like, oh snap, this wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? And so now, they end up like, okay, I need to, seek God or, you know what I'm saying? Do something different. So that does happen. So thank God for that. But
man, there's a whole lot of people that's actually turned their lives around and actually come to find Christ, that's on death row. And you know what I'm saying? And it took that to get there, you know what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, it's still like, that still turns into a win, regardless of how terrible the situation and the circumstances that got him to that point, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man.
And so hopefully even through Diddy's situation, that's one thing that I think that as a society, people struggle with. I listened to, I was listening to this one guy and he's like, man, I hope Donald Trump burns in hell, and this is somebody that goes to church and it's like, bruh, like, do you realize what you're saying? You know what I'm saying? It's like, he actually meant it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, that's the opposite of what we're supposed to be talking about right now, But back to that point, it's like the amount of wrong was so extraordinary. I mean, it's so extraordinary from what the allegations are that it's like, and like you said earlier, man, there's no, it's such a slippery slope. I think we all, man, the flesh is real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And one thing leads to another thing and another thing leads to another thing. And if you start down that path, man, what you said is so real. Most of us don't go as far as we could go because of lack of resources. But if you have unlimited resources, you know what I mean? Literally anything at your fingertips at any time.
Yeah.
Where would you end up? And so that's kind of a scary thing. It's kind of a scary thought process because I'm sure that when he started off, that wasn't the end goal, but it spirals out of control very quickly, man. And I think that regret is so real. But it doesn't just have to be for somebody that's doing something extra ridiculous. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there are choices that we make. And I heard somebody say, and I think Shannon Sharp, and I don't think it was, he said that his grandmother used to say, or his grandfather used to say, we can make our choices, we can choose our decisions, but we can't choose our consequences. And that is the realest thing ever. Like, we have this moment, you know what I mean? And we can choose left or right, right? But on the other side of that, what does that look like? And man, at some point, people front and they say, "Oh man, I'll have no regrets," and blah 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 blah. And I think that's admirable to try to live without regrets, but that is a lie. You know what I'm saying? Like there's something that maybe you would have done differently. And granted, you can always learn from your mistakes and be better from it, and not ultimately hold ourselves and doom ourselves to the mistakes that we made in our past. But that doesn't mean that it was the right thing to do or the right move to make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, regret is such a weird thing too. Like when you apply it to yourself, some of the decisions that you made that weren't right, or you knew you could have chose something different, sent your life on this path, but like this is your life. So it's like, do you give up? Would you want to go back to change that stuff? And then relationships different, children are different, everything's different. You know what I'm saying? I actually daydream about that sometimes, like going back to like, I don't know, like high school graduation and making and putting some stock into like Google and Amazon, doing stuff like that. Like, he's a stock market genius. How did you do it, man? You know what I'm saying? It's got this feeling. But, but then I wouldn't have my family.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of stuff, man. Like, damn.
I think about that too, man. Like, but man, thanks, by the grace of God, you know what I'm saying, that all things work together for the good. And so like, that's where it really gives comfort, cause like where I am right now, I'm happy with where I am. You know what I mean? Like I'm comfortable with my family dynamic. I'm grateful for my wife and for my kids. And if I would have, pump faked instead of shot the ball at particular times, I wouldn't have the kids that I have, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Life would look completely different. And so I can't imagine what that would look like, you know what I mean? But does that mean that it's difficult, like you said, you know what I'm saying? Like ultimately to really think about. But man, it's like I don't hold on to things in a regret standpoint, but I do want to learn the lessons from the mistakes. You know what I'm saying? So like there have been regrets. There have been things and choices that have been made that have been wrong. And to your point, like if I would have gone back and done some things differently or had some other access, I don't know if I'd be a Christian right now. I don't know if I'd be saved. You know what I'm saying? Like would I have continued? I've been called by God. You know what I'm saying? So I would have. But what I'm saying is like, would my sin or would my flesh have caught me up in this thing or in that thing or the other thing, if I would have had, whatever else, you know what I mean? And so, or if I didn't make that mistake, would I have started to make an effort to correct, and get my ship on the right path? And I think that's, I'm glad for where I am now. I'm glad for, and it sounds crazy to say that I'm glad for the mistakes that I made, but even with dealing with, my boys and the difficulty of the custody battle that we just got finished getting through, ultimately creating broken families, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, do I regret that? That was not the right move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It ultimately was not the right move to be having kids out of wedlock. I got my 2 boys now, but I can be sure, I can 100% tell you that the fact that I went through that, the fact that I didn't see him for 4 years, 1 month and 2 days, it got my walk right with the Lord. You know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of things that I was struggling with in between that time that I completely, you know what I'm saying, have moved beyond and that the Lord brought me out of, and he used to get me to a place where I am right now. And I think that the regret of those decisions is what catapulted the walk that I'm in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But it took, like you said, it took being smacked in the face with the consequences of the action. And a lot of times that's what it takes. And so back to Diddy, it's like, was it worth it? I think that the answer would probably, I think for most folks, man, the answer is probably no. You know, it's a whole different story when you don't have freedom anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a whole different story when you don't have freedom anymore. And for some people, when you don't have your health, you know, you can't walk anymore. You know, you have lung, whatever the situation is, that's you know, that's got you in a bind or in a bad spot. It's like, was it worth it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the goal is to not continue to live a life that will produce regret. The goal is to get to a place beyond doing the things, and really ultimately, it's just not living by what God's telling us to do. That's where regret lies, right? It's like when you're living and you're doing things your way, when you're being a slave to your body and not to your spirit, that's what gets you in a place of regret, in my opinion. You know, the ultimate charge is to get beyond that. You know, like we were talking about a few minutes ago. Man, I just found out I got a sister. You know what I'm saying? She's 47 years old. Was born in 1977. She's
Wait, when? I'm just playing. We talked about it. Sorry.
I was like, wait, what? Nah, but you know, and so, you know, thankfully, you know, man, my family dynamic is so open and so like accepting. So just for transparency, I've got 4 brothers and 2 sisters. I just found out about one, and you know, we're from now 5 different mothers, right? Mm-hmm. But growing up, it was 4 brothers and 1 sister, and
Issach's daddy was that dude. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, but
no regrets.
No regrets.
He was that guy.
But the one thing I was grateful for, man, was how he, you know, incorporated all of our families. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm cool with all my siblings' moms, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's been a thing that was really a blessing, man. So we grew up together. It was never like half brothers, you know what I mean? And a lot of people don't feel that. So now that we got a new sister, it's like it's easier to accept, because that was already how our family was painted anyway. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's not like out of the blue. I think it would have been a lot more difficult if my mom and my dad was married and we've been rocking out. I told my mom about it. Actually, my dad called my mom and told her about it. And then she was like, yeah, well, I told all of my sisters, she got 9 siblings. She was like, I told all of my siblings, like, if somebody were to come up on a DNA test and say that they're, you know, like, the devil is a lie, you know what I'm saying? If my daddy didn't tell me, then you could take that, you know, DNA results and you can go to, you know, and I'm like, whoa, Trudy Haskell, you know what I'm saying? Because she doesn't want to hear that. She's not willing to deal with that reality, and nothing like that's happened. You know what I mean? But for a lot of people, you know, that would be a very difficult thing.
That is very tough, bro. Like,
yeah. And so, but for my dad, you know, I've talked to him. He seems real good with it, but I really wonder what that feels like, you know, because I look back at my situation and I have to be honest with myself. I think about Anaya, my oldest daughter. I think about my 2 boys, you know, 14, 10, and 8. You know, now I'm married in a covenant, and we've got a family unit moving strong, and I've got all my kids in custody, and we're moving forward. Mm-hmm. But I think about it from my dad's standpoint. You know, does he ever look back and think to himself like, man, you know, what if I would have done this, or what if I would have done that? You know, does he view it from a scope of, you know, regret in any capacity? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And does he accept some of the difficulties that have been presented to our lives because of the choices that he made? You know what I mean? And so I don't know what that answer is. I haven't asked him that question before. And we don't operate out of any level of like hurt or anything. It's only been love. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I don't, you know, and I've forgiven my dad for a lot of the things that, you know, being in a household where your dad is not all the time, you know, there's lack, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so growing up, I didn't have a dad in my house on a regular at all. I grew up with my mom. I was a single, you know, and I would go visit my dad. Mm-hmm. But I looked at it like, you know, he was just doing what he knew to do. His mother had tuberculosis in the 40s and 50s when it was, you know, that was like a terminal illness, you know what I mean? Right. So he didn't grow up with the mom in the house. She was in the hospital the whole time. His dad worked from 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. So he never experienced what it was like, other than a man is supposed to go out and work, and a mom, she's supposed to do something, you know what I'm saying? But I don't know what it is. So, you know, it's a different dynamic. So I forgave him after growing up, but I still wonder sometimes, you know? And it's like, regret can be real, man. And it can also be debilitating. But I think that the important part is to hopefully that your regret, like you said earlier, drives you towards something better. And that's the part that should be, you know, focused on and emphasized.
Yeah, you know, I have a sister too. It's a weird situation. Like I remember when my dad called me and my brother and told me, "Hey, you about to have a sister." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I think I might have been maybe in my 20s when he told, you know what I'm saying, when it happened. And, you know, fast forward 17, 18, 19 years later, I got a chance to meet her. And, you know, we exchanged numbers. Did I talk about this on podcast before? Okay.
Not at all.
All right. So, and a lot of people don't know I have a sister.
Okay.
So usually I say half sister just to clarify, like, because I remember somebody said, "You got a sister?" Like, yeah, I have a half sister or whatever. And so, you know, we kept in touch and we would talk and, you know, kind of text back and forth. And it just got, you know, it wasn't super frequent, you know, got to be like, you know, holidays, birthdays, or just every now and then type of thing. And then, I had text her, I don't know, something like maybe around like a holiday or something. And I never got a response back. And I would, you know, hit her back again, nothing, hit her again. And then I got a response, like somebody cussed me out, like, "Man, who the F is this?" And I found out, you know, through that, like she changed her number.
Right.
So then I was like, okay. So typically, like in my mind, if you change your number, you're giving your new number to the people that you want
to have
contact with you.
Yeah.
So I figured, okay, I didn't make the cut, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't like I didn't want to talk to her. Just sometimes it's like, I'm not a great conversationalist in small talk, and we got to like really have like something in common or whatever. But you know, I left it alone because I was dealing with a lot at the time. Yeah, you know, with like my marriage, and like my mom and my wife. It's like, okay, I don't think I don't have the capacity to deal with another
thing.
Yeah, female in my life. If there's like a problem, there's something I did, it's like, okay. So I just kind of left it at that. And then, you know, my dad, he recently came to visit, you know, and I asked about her and he told me she's pregnant.
Got you.
And so
you got like a niece or nephew that's coming.
Right. And so I was like, "Hey, text me her number again." Because I think he had texted me a number like a long time ago. And I was just like, "Nah, I'm not gonna call." And now that she's about to have a kid, you know, I was like, "Okay, give me her number." So he gave me her number. So I have it. I haven't. That's like, I don't know. That was what, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know, so if I don't, am I gonna have regret?
Right.
I feel like I will.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, so and I feel like I should reach out to her and just see, you know, make it, you know what I mean? Just like, hey, you know, let's,
So man, that's very heavy and that's very real and very, very honest. And sometimes what it sounds like is that, and this happens in people's lives in general, is that sometimes we can take offense to something and it not necessarily even be intended. You know what I mean? So when you mentioned not making the cut, it sounds like, you know, that could potentially be like, all right, you know what I mean? And something that internally hurts, maybe not necessarily hurts, but maybe hurts, you know what I'm saying? But there's like a level of offense that can be taken from that. Like, all right, you know, I guess I wasn't, like you said, I didn't make the cut, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then maybe on her end, it might not have been an intentional thing, especially going such a long period of time before knowing each other. You know what I mean? And so I don't know to what degree you said you texted, back and forth sometimes on holidays and stuff like that. But depending on how intense the relationship had gotten or not, sometimes can dictate how things go. So I definitely, would strongly encourage you to reach out to her though, especially, in these moments, man, right now while she's about to have a child, bring a kid into the world.
Yeah.
And also, man, I'm a strong believer in the fact that like our kids should know who theirs are, if there's a possibility in it. It can be a very difficult thing sometimes, but I think that that's important. So like when I just found out about, my sister, she's got two daughters, one's 18 and one's 16. And man, so that means that there's first cousins that, my kids have that's out there, you know what I'm saying, that they have no idea about.
Yeah.
And that's okay. You know what I'm saying? They can, they're going through life and they'll be fine. But what opportunity could that lead into? What, where could that go? You just never know. But if you are already thinking like, hey, is that something that I could regret later? Then I definitely would encourage you to, just go ahead and shoot a little text or something. You know what I'm saying? Fill it out.
Yeah. I don't. Yeah.
Sometimes we got to be intentional, about I heard something said at church a couple of days ago, and it was said that we are either it was talking about culture, but basically we're driven by default or by design. Like either things are happening to us or we're intentional about what it is that we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so, sometimes being intentional produces better fruit, and it also shows the real love. We're out here trying to put a flashlight, in the world of what Christ looks like. And I don't know what her relationship might be, but I know what your relationship is. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so.
Sounds like accountability right now. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's just real though. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just never know.
I know where you are spiritually, Brandon. So what would Jesus do? Like, dang. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, man. You know what? I'm gonna reach out.
Reach
out. My personality, I tend to take the path of least resistance. Mm-hmm. And I'm also like, I don't know, sometimes I'm comfortable being disconnected in certain situations. Mm-hmm. But, you got to start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable just to change certain aspects about yourself. So,
man, that's the realest thing ever.
Yeah. So that's a bar. Let's
that's the realest thing ever.
Let's end it on that, man.
And there it is.
Got a lot to think about.
Well, look, man, and thanks for tuning in. Do all the YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, share, drop a comment,
Hey, let us know what your regrets are so I can feel better about myself.
Same here, man, because Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
But till next time, y'all, get busy.
Get busy.
Peace.
Peace.